Isn't it kind of funny?
Yeah. But other than just China pumping up the stock market, other than that,
Yeah.
not much.
Y'all ready?
What? Ready when you are, Captain. Good morning and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is August 29th, 2023. Bender, you know what I thought about today?
There is no telling.
So
No telling.
I thought about why I decided to consume an entire one of those Pepperidge Farm chocolate cakes this weekend, which I basically did in about 8 hours all by myself. I was trying to figure out why I did that.
And what did you come up with?
That I have problems. I have bigger.
Uh-huh.
I have bigger problems than I thought that I had.
No, you don't. You just see the same problems over and over.
Yeah, well, maybe. Well, when it comes to baked goods, definitely have issues. But this was one of those moments. I wasn't usually if I'm depressed, I'll go ahead and do a bakery hit and run. But I wasn't feeling that way. It just I don't know. I don't know what it was. But anyways, that's what I was thinking about. Um, how about you? Did
Was
you
there
have
any
any?
edibles involved?
No, no, no.
Interesting.
Well, no. It's all relative at
Interesting.
this point when it comes to me in that particular topic. It's like, well, how much counts is
Right.
counting. Um,
How much counts as involved?
what are we
Because
talking
there's
about?
always some level.
We talking
Yeah.
about Sunday mornings or are we talking about Thursday nights? What are we talking
Yeah.
about here? There's a difference. All right.
Yep.
So it looks like we had like a little rally. We had a little setup that was there, going into last night. Little tiny, little T90. There was a big W going on, that kind of thing going on, and it tried to break out and it failed pretty miserably. And now we're coming into a setting that is a little bit interesting. Do you want to talk about a couple of things before I hand it over to you? Things that I'm keeping my eyes absolutely just beyond peeled on. Um, one being SQQQ. Stonkington posted on the Twitter machine last night that they had a dark pool that was larger. It kind of unusual to see it come in. And if you take a look at SQQ, which is basically inverse of the Nasdaq, unless you want to get super nerdy and technical, and you can be like, well, not exactly, but let's just call it that for government work here. If you look at a 5 day, 10-minute chart, this thing is bull flag falling wedge, no matter what you want to call it. And that was a pretty big lick that they laid in last night that came in near the bottom of this little falling wedge flag thing, whatever it is over there. So definitely that's going to be something to keep an eye out for. Um, it's in a very, very weird place right now, and I think we can all agree that the market is in kind of a weird place right now as far as figuring out, do we take some of this doom and gloom headline news that keeps on coming out and we put it on the back burner and we plow higher, Or is the messaging from the Fed last week something that really wants to cool people down a little bit? Which I didn't see a cool off message coming out of what they were saying. Now, one thing has nothing to do with the other. Ultimately, the only thing that really matters when it comes to intraday price action, barring a headline, would be the chart. Bender, what you got on them charts?
All right, let me let's go through it here. Let me get this share going. All right, let's get a little cleaner view. Okay, let's start. Let's look at the weekly first. Again, just to kind of so you see where some of these lines come from. You'll see this CE, consequent encroachment, 50% of this weekly wick. You'll see that come into play on the other time frames. That's where that comes from. We do have this volume imbalance down here, right? The bottom of it being 44.1425 and the top side being 44.18. And you can see these kind of this shaded box down here. You'll see where that comes from. But the bodies of these candles, these weekly candles, you know, staying above that. Moving into daily, again, you can see that weekly CE coming into play. That volume imbalance there exists on the daily as well. That's why I've got it visible here and marked as daily volume imbalance. The other thing I want to point out on this chart is this candle's high to this candle's low, the midpoint 44.25 half. So let's keep that in mind as we zoom in. Now you'll see that daily volume imbalance right here where we were consolidating just above that, right? With probes into that volume imbalance before we made the push higher. And then this blue shaded box marking the top of this 60-minute fair value gap right here. You know, you can see how that was essentially resistance. We popped through it, left a fair value gap behind, and it became support. Probe down into that a couple of times, but we never got a close, you know, below it. So, you know, kind of bigger picture for me today, tomorrow, is if we start seeing candles close below this 44.2375, you know, then we'll look for another probe into this daily volume balance, perhaps even below it. And you can see below there is this 60-minute fair value gap right here. So if we start getting, you know, even 5-minute candles, and we'll go to a 5-minute and see if we've had any 5-minute candles close below that. But if we start seeing that, that would tell me that, you know, it'll probably take this area and then down into this 60-minute fair value gap. I'm going to change the color of this. Like so. And on the flip side of that would be candles closing above 44.50 would make me think that we're probably going to push back up into this previous new week opening gap. Likely take these highs, 44.86 level. So moving into a 15-minute, you'll see I marked the Asia session high and low, London session high and low. London session took out Asia session highs and lows. So sets us up for a potential seek and destroy type day. The last two setups we had with that last week did not play out that way, but still something to keep in mind. More often than not, they do. But you can see the bottom of that 60-minute fair value gap. Back to that. real quick. This candle right in here, that's where this line comes from. You can see that acting as support at the moment, right? So looking at a 15-minute, if that area becomes resistance, then we're targeting back down into where these candles were probing down here, 44.25-ish, and then that daily volume imbalance right in here. Moving into the 5-minute, and what we wanted to see is if we had 5-minute candles that were closing below this level, which we didn't have any candle, 5-minute candle, even on these wicks, no 5-minute candles closing below at 44.2375. So if we start to see that, then again, that would lead me to believe that we're coming down into here. I'm going to start with this 60-minute fair value gap right here. If we get 5-minute candles below that, 44.34, closing below that, again, that would make me think that we're probably going to come take this area out. I think that's about it. Going back real quick, let's see. So the only other thing that I'm looking at is you've got the 20 MA on the daily is this white line just above that weekly CE level, comes in at 44.5775. And you can see we came up here, the orange line being the 50. We came up here, tapped the 50 and rejected it. And now we've come up and we're just about at the 20. So, to really get any sort of momentum to the upside, we need to get these daily candles above that 20 MA and above the 50. Until then, I would be cautious up here around that 20 MA, see if that, that could act as resistance and knock it back down. And, if you just look at the relationship of the 20 and the 50, it's like, when it's trading above the 50, you get nice move. Trading below the 50, you get nice move. Comes down, acts as support, fires higher. But you can see where those crosses occur. So we've got the cross of the 20 below the 50 here. And ideally what we would see is something similar to this, right? We'd want to see, now that it's come down, we'd want to see it start to move back up and get that rounding action of the 20 back up and through. Something else that I'll call out real quick, because we talk about the cycles of things sometimes. And I was looking at this, kind of the amount of time it takes for these moves to occur, right? So if I measure this, you got about 60, 63, 62 days, something like that. And if I measure from where this kind of bottomed out, and I go back 60 days, 62 days, 63 days, kind of right in here, right? So, if you look at this candle as being the bottom, 64 days. So then if I go to where we are now, and I take this little ruler here and I go, okay, well, if this was the low and I go back 60 days, kind of right in here, right? So maybe you had this candle down, but we're somewhere in that 60 to 63 days, right? Where if the cycle stays the same, somewhere in this set of candles, if the cycle is going to repeat, we're at that point in time where we should now start to move back up just based on those cycles. And that's about it.
Well, thank you, Bender. I appreciate that. That was a great walkthrough. Sonny, what you got, bud?
Oh man, it's a busy day today.
You keep on lying. You keep on telling untruths.
I mean, it's the company I keep, so. So
that would still be an indictment on you, though. Just so you know, it's like okay,
it's my fault for the company I keep, but yeah. So Google's having their 3-day event. It's called the Next Conference that started up today. They've already announced a whole bunch of deals with Estee Lauder, EL, GM, Fox Sports. They also unveiled a new AI chip and AI tools, and also raised pricing for their Gmail customers if they want the AI built into it. It's going to be $30 per month per user. In the Google Workspace, they put out some numbers. The revenue reached $8 billion, and they gained 4 million new customers in the Google Workspace area. So, and we saw some really bullish flow into it yesterday. They were slamming it for this week and next. For GM, it makes sense to partner with them because GM did say, for the EV connectivity, they're going to be moving away from Apple CarPlay and making their own system. So I think this is their move right there. Amazon has increased their free shipping minimum to 35 for non-Prime members. It used to be 25, so they are in the same ballpark as Walmart. So they are really doing some savings and prepping up for the next year because they've also given an option now when you buy stuff from Amazon to not use an Amazon box and just use whatever the manufacturer box is. JP Morgan, I talked about this morning. So they have removed Salesforce from their top stock pick list, but at the same time, they maintain a buy rating and the price target of 230. They think that about 8.5% potential move from ER. Let's see what else. Oh, NEO reported their numbers. Second quarter loss, much bigger than anticipated. XPEV also, I think, is releasing the numbers on Friday, so I'll keep an eye on that. In the same sector, so S&P Global Mobility cut its 2023 forecast for new vehicle sales by about 500,000. Surprisingly, they are saying rising rates and tighter credits are a concern for them. So imagine why. Upgrades and downgrades. Needham is reiterating buy on Okta and CrowdStrike. UBS upgrades Oracle to buy. Citigroup upgrades Verizon and AT&T to buy. And RBC Capital is outperform on Square. There's also another meeting today by JP Jeffries, semiconductor meeting, where they're going to have, LiDAR. It's a penny stock now, I think. But Juniper, Ericsson, and a few other guys going to be there. So I'll keep you updated on the news. Total Shaden does a fantastic job of whenever this news comes out. But if you see flow into some of the semiconductor names, I'll definitely try to play on those. And let's see. SPX, gamma is neutral. Range today is 4,400 to 4,450. My line in the sand, as it was yesterday, was 4,420 for a play. Implied high is 4,467 and low is 4,400, like I said. And on ES, my chop zone is 4,437 to 4,442. Above 4,442, I'll go long. And below 4,435, I'll look to go short. I'll try to call out the plays as I see it, and that's about it.
Thank you, Sonny. So
Hello.
everything that you kind of saw, read off, everything else, just for shits and giggles, do you have a lean coming into the day?
You might not have been able to hear you there. You had a
So, boy, he
question about.
bailed out, didn't he? Stonkington, what you got, buddy?
All right.
Like that,
Oh,
that
man.
dude dropped the mic and took off running.
Maybe you needed a HellsBells Siggy break. All right. We got some smash burgers, and we got my computer that's working. Thank you,
You're
Bender.
welcome.
Yeah, dude, the cookies. Oh my gosh, how did I forget to do the cookies?
It's like I keep on telling you these things, and you just keep on just not listening.
I could only imagine the amount of work it would have taken for me to fix it if you would have worked on it first, Hells.
Well, you wouldn't have had to. I think that's the point. That's the point. It's like, who have I failed when it comes to computer tech issues thus far? I will wait.
It's kind of
for
one of
somebody.
those things, it's kind of one of those things where I think because people are just nice to you, so they're like, oh, yeah, thanks for the help. They
People
didn't
are
do
nice to
anything
me?
that you
Really?
suggested.
People are nice to me. That's what we're going with now.
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
God. Ooh, imagine if I had enemies. Wow.
See?
All right.
Yeah.
Man.
Whew. All right, Stonk. Give us some good news over there.
All right. It must look like a guy who needs people to be nice to him. The crazy thing was, I tried the actual thing that works twice, and it made it almost there and failed. And then somehow Bender, with the magic touch, it was all fixed up after that. But all right, we got smash burgers on deck. It's a short setup on Spy, IWM, and Qs, and we will get. I put the alerts on Spy and Q that will pop in the room. So basically, we're thinking failed breakouts, meaning yesterday we closed above the prior day's high. So if we broke yesterday's low, that would be our entry with a stop at yesterday's high. And I have some circles on some examples here. Closed above the prior day's high, so we wait for the break below that low, and we get a nice little short. Closed above prior day's high, wait for the low. That one wasn't much room on that one. That's a good one here. Close above prior day's high, wait for the break below, get a nice run down. So that's kind of the failed breakouts. Larry Williams smash day. Also here on Spy, we closed above prior day's high, wait for the break below, we'll get a pop in the room, and you use yesterday's high as your stop. So something to be aware of. Keep an eye out for those popping up in the room. If we jump over to the NASDAQ daily with my markups here, very similar to where Bender started, the volume imbalance on the daily, which on the NASDAQ happens to also be the new week opening gap, this pink box right here. So be interested to see if they come down to rebalance that area. So that'll be a good one to keep an eye on if we jump over here to the 4 hour. Mentioned the importance of this level here, 15, 21, 25, that green line right there. Been support in the past, bang, 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 bang over there, and then flipped the resistance. So, and then we kind of drifted just below it yesterday and then popped back above. So if we come back, I'll be looking to see if we, if we react to that line. For upside, we still have this fair value gap here above. I did mark out this originally yesterday when we looked at it. This was the midpoint. I think this level here, we could get a reaction. 15,177.50. Just based on some of these candles in the past, they had, just above reacting. So if we can cross that, then my next upside target I'll be looking for would be up to that 15,338.50. Some of the stuff I'll be looking for on the NASDAQ. If we jump over to the Russell, let's see. So we had, we kind of have this trend line that we didn't get up to yesterday, but if you get up into this orange box is a weekly gap with a daily yellow inside of it. So these are some of the upside targets. Yesterday I made a nice move at the open on the Russell to the upside and left this fair value gap on the 4 hour, that blue box below. So if we can push to the downside, that would be a downside target at 1862.50. And then new week opening gap again, it's going to be this pink box. And then if we have to slice down below that, this purple line has been the power line for some reason. 1852.40. All these 4-hour candles keep closing above, so that'd be something to keep in mind. Good reminder that you want to keep your time frame. It matters when you're watching these levels, because it'd be, we want to see a 4-hour candle if it closed well past that line. And then, upside, if we're going to continue to the upside, I want to see it close and hold above that 1874. On the individual ticker side, going to keep an eye on coin today. I mentioned yesterday that on the daily, we did pull back to the 618. I have my fibs a little different here, just give me more levels. And we're sitting right in this area where we started getting dark pool last night, which is pretty rare for coin. So I'm going to keep an eye on this 73.71. And then I gave it some pretty conservative triggers because the main focus is going to be the dark pool. But I can see below the 72 for 15 for whatever reason came into play. And then above, I'm going to be watching this 76 wrap, flat number, psychological level that appears to be in play. So I think, and coin was a daily inside bar as well. So we'll see what we get over there on coin. If we jump over to AMD, which Bender taught me last night about AMD, because I think that was a big part of why my computer was sucking ass. We got some dark pool here on AMD 102.61. It's been kind of quiet over there, so I think that could be important to keep an eye on. That was from last night. To the upside, I'm going to be watching this 103.45. You can see it's kind of displayed in the past. We couldn't pop and hold it yesterday. And then, again, round number, psychological level to the downside is going to be 100 flat, which we can also see we reactions back here as well. And that's all I got.
Well, Stockton, that was very nice. That was very nice.
Thanks.
So what do you think, buddy?
Well, unfortunately, I have another field trip today, so I only have about an hour to watch. I mean, if we got this smash day to the downside, I think that's going to be important that we're aware of where yesterday's low is.
Mm-hmm.
Based on flow, I mean, I think you and I both kept saying, this isn't bearish. This isn't bearish.
Right.
And that was kind of like, I would say, maybe the very short dated indice guys were bearish, but as a whole for the rest of the individual tickers, it didn't look so bad in the flow. That was kind of my read.
Yeah, no, I know, and I totally agree with that. We do have some heavy put activity out to October. I think that exists. I think what makes it a little bit scary is while we can say in looking at the flow that it's not bearish, it sure as shit is not bullish out to October, November, with the exception of a couple of names. It's like Google has some nice flow to the upside. I can say that for sure. Outside of that, it's like we're kind of splitting hairs here in a lot of ways as far as actually looking for good flow, which means there's not any good flow to the upside. When you have to really think really hard, that's when you have that. The things that I think that are really important when it comes to days like this, and we can see this pattern. And if you take away that spike up to your little red line and then shift back down, we take that and just eliminate it completely from the chart. That spike that we had last week with Jackson Hole, and we still have a downtrend that's trying to continue to work its way lower from the top. Well, I guess it did break out there a little bit, but we're retracing a lot of that move. It's really tough when I look at the dollar and how the dollar's wanted to act. And we have the dollar again pushing highs. It's sat there and consolidated for 3-4 days, something like that, for a couple of days. And then it made its rip, and it's trying to rip up out of this flag on the 1 hour. So the dollar is problematic, and we're seeing the pressure come through on equities at the same time. Now, Does that mean that we're going to go straight up or straight down in a straight line? Probably not. But there's some things that are just kind of like, okay, so we don't have super bullish flow. That can change in a heartbeat, right? We have a dollar that's trying to move to the upside. Okay. We see that. That usually puts pressure on equities. From smaller time frames, I'm looking at SQQ, and that to me, if I look at this little 10-day or 5-day, whatever you want to look at it, that's a bull flag. That's a falling wedge. That's a something or another, and they laid a donkey dick into it last night. So there's some pieces that say that line up with your, we could potentially smash to the down, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It's like that. It's those pieces are there, and if I'm looking here intraday, or since the market kind of opened, if I'm looking at the Q, it's like we have an attempted breakout fail, bear flag, sell, bear flag, sell, bear flag, sell, bear flag, sell. And now we're getting a little bounce. Now the moves aren't all that big, but it's like this is what has transpired since about 4 a.m. So now here we are. We're in the game. The market's about to open. I think you have to be patient, man. We have data 30 minutes after open.
Yeah,
I think this is one of those patient days. And I was talking to the lady this morning. I was like, man, it's like today might be a day that you just don't want to trade, because the setup is not blaringly obvious. We don't have a glaringly obvious setup, in my opinion. Bender, you have anything else you want to add? I think Bender said no. All right, Stonk. Anything else, bud?
I think we covered it.
All right. Good job, everyone. We'll see you soon.
Sorry, I was on mute trying to help somebody out with something. But yeah, I think I covered everything I wanted to cover. So for those of you in Discord, we'll see you in 9 minutes. And for everybody else, see you tomorrow.